The new and improved Obamacare website, significant changes, or cyberspace smoke and mirrors? This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. While you were chowing down on turkey dinners and leftovers this weekend, the computer technicians behind the healthcare.gov website were frantically working to get their digital ducks in a row. Today, it was time to see if it all worked. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Britt Hume on how Democrats may pay a heavy political price for Obamacare. Jim Engel with what may be another broken promise from the president. Peter Doocy continues his attempts to sign up for insurance, but we begin with Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry on what, if anything, has changed. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Brett. The administration took a bit of a victory lap over the weekend over healthcare.gov, but tonight the question is whether online users are simply being pushed from one waiting line to another. President Obama's aides struggled today to explain whether they really met the deadline to fix healthcare.gov after consumers reported getting a new page telling them there's so much traffic they've been thrown into a queue to wait, which the White House insists is progress.
I think you're confusing error messages with the queuing message, which is quite a different thing entirely.
It was only yesterday the tech team led by Jeffrey Zients claimed victory in meeting the November 30th deadline, saying the site was doing so much better that the queuing system was not needed Sunday.
The site has been performing well in terms of response times and error rates, and no, there has not been a need to deploy the queuing system at this point.
With a surge of about 375,000 users logging on Monday, errors and response times increased. So Carney explained consumers were placed in the queue and told to come back at a better time.
This day.
Just I keep moving them into other lines. I mean, the goal is obviously to enroll more people, right?
Absolutely. And
so if they're still
those people
waiting,
who want to enroll. Ed, I would point you to the fact that more people are visiting the site and are able to effectively go from beginning to end when it comes to enrolling than was the case in October and in November.
Yet insurance companies put out a new warning that the back-end systems of the site meant to deliver consumer information to insurers are still not ready.
What everybody wants to avoid is a situation in which consumers think they're enrolled, but their enrollments weren't able to be processed, they weren't able to pay their first month's premium, and their coverage actually isn't beginning on January 1st.
Kathleen Sebelius, the Health and Human Services Secretary, issued a desperate plea, writing in USA Today, quote, "To those Americans who have experienced difficulties online, please do not give up. The new marketplace is an opportunity for individuals without employer insurance to obtain coverage with choice and competition that was previously unavailable." Though the administration's own progress report on healthcare.gov stated, quote, "The team is operating with private sector velocity and effectiveness," raising questions about whether the administration can turn the corner.
That is an acknowledgement that, you know what? If this was a government operation for a long time and it failed, now we're bringing in the private sector folks. I mean, that is an indictment on the whole idea of government as a solution, frankly.
Now, David Plouffe said yesterday on ABC that when it comes to Medicaid expansion, it may not really work very well until 2017, after the president has left office. Now, the White House stressed today he was only speaking about Medicaid, not the broader law in terms of the success rate. But the bottom line is Medicaid expansion is a key part of this law. This could be an attempt to start scaling back expectations when other Democrats want to see progress by the end of 2014 in those midterm elections, Brett.
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. Back when the website went online for the first time, October 1st, we gave correspondent Peter Doocy the job of testing it out. And despite his best efforts, it has not gone well. Tonight, Peter has an update.
Today is the biggest internet shopping day of the year, and websites for America's largest online retailers have been working just fine. But what about the new and improved healthcare.gov?
So the White House says they've now doubled the capacity at healthcare.gov so 50,000 consumers can simultaneously shop. Right now it's midday on Cyber Monday. I'd like to apply now for health coverage. I'll select my state, which is Virginia, down close to the bottom. Apply online. And too many visitors. Now there is an option to leave your email and ask for a one-time message when healthcare.gov is ready for my return. So So I will give them that email and click to skip the wait.
That email queue is new. And so is this, a page of complete gibberish that popped up after simply clicking Apply Now for coverage. Look at all those question marks. The White House says repairs to the site are being made, and the administration says they've now isolated a problem that had been tripping up 834 forms, which send an applicant's information to insurance companies.
More than 80% of the 834 production errors were actually due to one bug that prevented a Social Security number from being included in the application.
Officials claim a 90% success rate at healthcare.gov, but some experts are skeptical of that statistic.
What we're seeing are points that are clearly politically driven. Clearly, they are designed to soothe the nerves of people who've been asking questions.
Back in October, Consumer Reports told people to hold off on enrolling, but they are now satisfied with the fixes that have been made and are urging the uninsured to sign up quickly.
When the troubles first started, that people should stay away from the site, not forever, but to give them time to fix it, which they've now substantially done, at least for the part that consumers are using.
The first time I asked healthcare.gov to email me about a better time to return to the site was at 11:40 this morning. I finally got word that it was okay to go back more than 5 hours later at 5 o'clock on the dot. Brett?
Okay, we'll continue to follow your journey. Peter, thank you. Perhaps the biggest hit to the president's credibility in this whole mess has been self-inflicted. Tonight, Chief National Correspondent Jim Engel with another presidential guarantee gone wrong.
In an effort to deflect the criticism for having made the false promise that people could keep their plans and doctors no matter what, the president offered a new promise.
Most people will be able to buy better plans for the same price or even cheaper than what they've gotten before.
That's not an accurate argument. So if your plan is now covering a bunch of things that you don't need, then how is it a better plan for you?
You can do the math. Most of the policies in his claim could spend more, cover more things, provide more visits, and charge less. So the arithmetic just does not work.
And the promise that most people would be better off is sharply disputed by many, including a number of individuals experiencing sticker shock, even those with pre-existing conditions.
I went from $891 a month to $1,437 a month, and also my deductibles all doubled.
I would get the terrible plan with the $6,000 deductible. So I'll pay $1,200 a year for that, and I'll be less insured than I am today.
And analysts argue those whose policies are canceled will get coverage, but not at lower prices.
What we're seeing is that the new Obamacare plans typically have higher deductibles than the old plans did, a narrower choice of doctors and hospitals, and yet higher premiums.
It's very easy for a bronze plan to have a deductible that's and total out-of-pocket costs that are $6,000.
And one analyst points to a November 14th letter from one of the top officials implementing the law, conceding subsidies won't help everyone.
It's a letter from Gary Cohen to state health insurance commissioners saying that while many people will have subsidies, there still will be some people who will be paying more than they were paying.
And a few days after his initial promises, the president seemed to downgrade the pledge that most would get better coverage at lower prices.
There's a good chance that they'll be able to buy better insurance at lower cost.
In fact, one insurance plan that asked not to be identified analyzed its pool of 375,000 people and found that even after subsidies, only 10% would actually see a decrease in cost, while 1/3 would face significant rate increases as a result of Obamacare. Brett?
More with this at the panel. Jim, thank you. The president's party could end up paying a stiff price for Obamacare. Senior political analyst Britt Hume has some thoughts on that tonight. Good evening, Britt.
Hi, Brett. The president's health insurance reform plan is now the stuff of jokes, but its political consequences will be felt long after the laughter has faded. The farcical rollout of the website, which is still not fixed, is likely to prove the least of the problems. Mr. Obama's deceptive promise that no one would lose their doctors, hospitals, or health insurance has done far greater damage. People simply do not forget such conspicuous acts of bad faith. And many congressional Democrats set to face the voters next year echoed Mr. Obama's false promise and are thus complicit in it. Millions of Americans have now lost coverage. Millions more will. countless others are finding out their doctors or hospitals are not included in the Obamacare insurance offerings. Now, in time, Obamacare will undoubtedly produce some winners, especially those who were previously uninsured who lost coverage but are able now to find new policies at a subsidized price. The problem for Democrats is that anger and disappointment are almost always more powerful political motivators than satisfaction and contentment. It is negative emotions that start political movements and drive people to the polls or sometimes the streets. Remember, Obamacare was passed at a time when 80% of Americans indicated in polls they were satisfied with their health care. Disrupting that was the political equivalent of knocking over a hornet's nest. And there seems little doubt at this point who is going to get stung. Brett?
When you talk about winners, it appears you're talking about insurance coverage. We don't know about care at this point.
For example, a lot of the uninsured and some who are losing their coverage are going to find themselves on Medicaid. Now, the reimbursement rates to doctors and other health care providers under Medicaid are so low that a great many health care providers, doctors, and the rest simply won't accept Medicaid. So what you have is, for these people, and perhaps for many others as well, a growing doctor shortage, a growing shortage of hospitals that will take them. So what they end up with is insurance, but not care. And I think this is going to affect a lot of people and will add to the anger and resentment that we've talked about that others are already experiencing.
All right, Brett, thank you.
You bet.
Up next, how the Obama administration deals with a Christian family fleeing what it calls religious persecution. But first, here's what some of our Fox affiliates across the country are covering tonight. KHON in Honolulu on Hawaii's first same-sex weddings. The state is hoping for a $217 million tourism boost over the next 3 years as the result of the new law. Fox 31 in Denver on their arrest of a woman for offering topless haircuts to folks in Longmont and Johnstown. The charge, practicing cosmetology without a license, is a federal offense, according to the district attorney's office there. And this is a live look at Los Angeles from Fox 11. The big story there tonight, the investigation into the car crash that killed movie star Paul Walker and his friends Saturday night. Officials are focusing on the speed of the Porsche right before the accident. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.